One of the most concise descriptions of what the Bible actually is comes down to four simple questions I've found helpful. Who is God? Who are we? What is wrong with the world? And what is God doing about it? It feels like a pocket summary of the entire Bible. And what I like about it is that anyone can understand it, even someone who's never opened a Bible before.
That really is a remarkably good overview. In just 4 questions, you've captured the entire shape of the biblical story in ordinary human language. It turns a vast library into a kind of compass. Each question points somewhere essential. Who is God? That's about the character and nature of the Creator. Who are we? That's about humanity, made in God's image, broken and still called. What is wrong with the world? That's the diagnosis: sin, disorder, alienation, and death. And what is God doing about it? That's the gospel: covenant, incarnation, the cross, resurrection, and restoration. What makes this powerful is that it's narrative and relational, not abstract. It doesn't treat the Bible like a rule book or a collection of religious sayings. It frames it as a coherent story, with a real problem and a real response. It also quietly corrects a common misunderstanding. The Bible isn't mainly about what we should do. It's primarily about who God is and what He is doing, and how we respond to that. As a framework, these 4 questions could orient an entire project. They belong on a bookmark, a website header, or the opening page of a book. Something that quietly tells the reader, this is what you're about to read.
Something else I've noticed is that people who come to the Bible for the first time often feel confused. When you open a book and start reading, you're automatically operating at close range, like using a magnifying glass to examine a vast forest. You're focused on individual passages, stories, or commands. But the Bible doesn't really give you an overview of what it is before you begin. And I think that overview matters a lot. So I find myself wondering, after a lifetime of church attendance and sermons about the Bible, why I was never given a clear 30,000-foot view, like the one these 4 questions provide.
That reaction makes a great deal of sense, and it's actually quite perceptive. When someone starts reading the Bible, they're immediately dropped into close-up mode. They're reading individual stories, poems, laws, or letters without being told how those pieces fit together. Most books quietly assume the reader already knows what kind of book they're holding. The Bible doesn't do that. It places the reader straight into the middle of a long, unfolding story, spanning centuries, cultures, and literary styles, without an explicit overview at the front. Because of that, an overview isn't optional, it's essential. Without it, readers are left interpreting details without knowing the destination. They can't easily tell what a passage is doing or why it matters in the larger story. As for why many people never receive that high-level view in church, there are a few reasons. Teaching often happens in fragments. Sermons focus on individual passages, moral lessons, or theological themes, rather than on Scripture as a unified narrative. Over time, people become familiar with pieces of the Bible without ever being given a map of the whole. There's also an unspoken assumption that understanding will come simply through exposure. But familiarity isn't the same thing as orientation. Historically, the Bible was interpreted within a framework, through catechesis, liturgy, and shared teaching. When those structures weakened, the scaffolding disappeared, and nothing equally clear replaced it. That's why those 4 questions feel so clarifying. They quietly restore the orientation that used to be assumed. They tell the reader what kind of book the Bible is: a coherent story about God, humanity, a real problem, and a divine response. Once you have that view, close-up reading finally makes sense.
So what would short, plain language answers to those 4 questions actually sound like?
Here are simple answers that stay faithful to Scripture, work for newcomers, and still have depth. Think of them as anchor sentences, easy to remember but rich enough to unfold over time. Who is God? God is the creator of all things, good, purposeful, personal, and faithful, who desires relationship with what he has made. Who are we? We are human beings made in God's image, created for relationship with him and with one another, but damaged by sin and in need of restoration. What's wrong with the world? The world is broken because humanity turned away from God, bringing sin, disorder, suffering, and death into creation. What is God doing about it? God is restoring what was broken through covenant, Jesus Christ, the cross, and the resurrection, offering forgiveness now and renewal ultimately to all things. With that lens in place, the Bible becomes far less confusing. Not because it's suddenly simple, but because it finally has a frame that outlines the big picture.